my background, like my family background, is a poor one. So opportunities as it pertained to education for me were a bit limited, in the sense that my parents could not afford to take me to a school that was outside of my community. Hence, I had to deal with what was there, and what was there was not adequate for some of the dreams that I had. My name is Zimbabwe Marindire. I am 31 years old, and I have a goal, or an African dream, to train 1 million girls across Africa to be digitally literate by 2030. My job, or the work that I do now, is mainly to afford young women and young girls in communities like the one that I grew up in with opportunities that I would have wanted whilst I was at that stage, and the opportunities that I know once they leave secondary school allows them to have a better way of life. It started as a personal project for myself and a friend of mine who's one of the co-founders of the organization. We responded to a call by the Mandela Washington Fellows in 2015, who, in terms of like mentoring girls, and we took in 5 girls who were studying media at the UZ, and then it grew from there. So it grew from just 2 people working to just mentor these 5 girls, and then we saw there were gaps, because when the girls came in, we just wanted to help them get digital skills, but then we realized they were coming from communities that had issues that we dealt with when we were their age. And then we realized some of them, they were in uni, but they could not use a computer because angasana personal. And then like getting into the library and stuff like that to use the computer, maybe ainyara and couldn't go. And then when we initially then went to Kuma locations, we were like, no, we're gonna go and teach code. And code, you teach you how to create apps and then create content for the apps. But Patakashika, the kids didn't know. They were in Form 4, Form 5, Form 6, or out of school. They did not know how to start a computer. And that was 2017. So it's not even far. It's like I left school without knowing how to use a computer in 2003. And kids, 2017, at the same school that I went to, can't even start a computer as well, and that's unacceptable. So we go in, we teach from the basics, and then we move up. Our main area, though, when we're working within the digital space, is access to information, and then also access to the ICTs where information is shared, global information is shared. And you see that as a nation, both men and women, we are at a huge disadvantage because there are many barriers to then accessing ICTs and information itself. One, we are faced with the issue of energy supply. Electricity is continuously going, which means then when electricity is down, if your phone is not charged, then you can't go on the internet. And with the way that work works now, like I do a lot of work personally, for maybe companies that are outside Zimbabwe, and then I need to be using internet. I need to be using my machine and have access to internet. But when electricity is gone for 16 hours, that means I can't work. It also means that someone who's running a tech shop that has, where he's trying to make ends meet in that tech shop by selling freezes, they can't sell freezes because then there's nothing to freeze the drink. Opportunities usually are not as easy to come by as a girl or as a young woman, mainly because of cultural, societal expectations. To say, it's not like someone says you can't do this, but the expectations placed upon you sometimes restrict access. So you find you have an internet cafe, like in Mufakos there's an internet cafe, right? The school doesn't have computers, so it means the boys and the girls don't have access. But it's easier for the guy to then go and spend 2 hours at the internet cafe than for the girl, because the girl, after she finishes school, she has to go home and help the mother with work at the house or at the store or whatever it is. And at 4 o'clock, she's expected to be inside the gate. Whereas the guy can be like, up until 4, he's at the internet cafe, and then if he has a friend who has a laptop at home, he can be there up until 7, just using the computer. So the access to opportunities kind of differ, and at the disadvantage of the girl because of cultural and societal norms that are placed on the girl. So that's why we mainly concentrate on girls. And then also statistics generally in Zimbabwe show we have fewer women in ITC working within that space than there are men. If one study done by the Python Association of Zimbabwe, I think, says there are less than one woman who enrolls for programming or science related, in terms of computer science related programs at the UZ. So our thinking is we want to increase that. We want to increase those numbers because you find that if you have ICT skills, whether you're working in accounting, whether you're working in media itself, or whatever field it is, if you have that skills, chances of you earning of earning more money are higher than for someone who just has the traditional skill. Parents understand, they understand the benefits of having their children, one, of having the girl child educated, of having the boy child educated, but of also having added skills that then help with maybe actually getting a job or earning better when you do get the job. They understand and they appreciate it, so they do send their kids when we do have classes. It's also been well received, I think, in terms of support from other civic players or civic bodies. We've had invitations from the African Union. Recently, we were part of the International Telecommunications Union World Summit on Information. So the program in itself has been well received. I think our biggest challenges come in terms of equipment, so that our program is consistent. We don't have machines of our own, so we rely heavily on well-wishers in terms of community. So if we go into a community and there's an internet cafe, we ask for use. If we go into a community and there's a business person who's there who is like free, a house that's free, we ask to use it. But sometimes that comes with its own challenges, because when someone gets into a mood, they then like, we no longer want you here. It's also very difficult to get into government schools, which are the ones that have the biggest need, because then they're underfunded, because the bureaucracy that prevails within our ministries, in that the school then needs to go and apply to the district then needs to go and apply to like the PEMSEC, etc. So then it becomes very difficult for you to merge. And there's this, I think, belief within our ministries, I think like government ministries, that anything that's civic related then means regime change. Whereas that's not it. We just want to complement what is happening. We understand the economic challenges that the nation faces, particularly also is the pressure that comes to parents themselves, and we want to complement. We want to come and cover the gap between the school, the parents, and then be in the middle, so that we offer our kids quality and relevant education. If the school did have computers, the child who has been pulled out from school because the parents can't afford to pay for school fees no longer has access. And if they have no access to school or to paying fees, if the parent can't pay fees, it means the parent doesn't have money to even send the child to an internet cafe, where then they can then have access to a computer and then access to information. And it also gives us a disadvantage, because now when we don't have access to information that is being shared within the internet or the World Wide Web, as compared to other places, we are then unable to be active participants within our communities or within our nations. If I don't know that what the budget, maybe they say the budget, we've shared the budget, the Harare City Council budget has been shared online. But how many people can access the public budget? Because it's supposed to be public knowledge. And if I know what the budget for the city is, I can then go maybe when they're doing the residents meeting in Mufakose, and then actually be an active participant, actually saying you are using that money wrong, may you put it in this and that place. But if I don't have access to that information that has been shared online, because they are not putting it and printing and giving it house to house, they are now putting it online. So if I don't have access, I'm at a disadvantage as a citizen, because then I don't have that information, then I can't participate. I can't participate actively in the development of my community or the nation or the city. So it's a huge disadvantage when you compare to places like South Africa, where internet itself is actually affordable. In Zimbabwe, internet is not affordable. Recently, we saw one of the biggest players in the telecoms industry increased their rates for internet. Now to get 600 MB of data, it's $20 plus. And my average family or average person is earning around 400 RTG. And when you put in place money for rent, and you put in place money for food, and if they have kids, money for fees, etc., and transport to go to the same job, people don't have money to be buying data. So it's a huge disadvantage when it comes to community participation, and that's a huge thing. Like, active citizen participation is a huge thing when we're talking about creating democratic communities. It's a huge issue. This is why it was important for us to start looking at creating co-working space, where then those things, we're trying to address some of those things, like energy supply. If we can have a co-working space that has renewable energy, that's using renewable energy, so energy is accessible. If we can then maybe partner with telecom companies that are there, I think we've seen that they are willing to, when it has community benefit to it, to partner and say, within this space, if you come within this space with your phone or with your laptop, if you are a girl, or even if you are a man and you come, you will have access to the internet. You will have access to machines that are in there that you can use. If you are a girl, if you are looking for employment, if you are maybe wanting to write, or you just want to have news from around the world, then you can access it in that space. That's why it's important for us. And the work that we do generally is important, so that it promotes a democratic community where everyone is participating and being productive. I believe that government needs to be more welcoming to private players when it comes to education, and actually working hand to hand. Not just a private school is created and that's that. No, like private and a government school actually working together. I know give an example, in maybe the UK or the US, after school programs are actually part of the school system. So when kids are finished with school and during the summer they come for an after school program that's run by a civic organization in partnership with government. I think that needs to start being the norm, because we know maybe they do have challenges in terms of funding the schools, but then there are civic players and corporate players that do have the money to fund programs. They might not have extreme trust in the school system in terms of managing maybe equipment or the money they give, and want to run that thing on their own. It doesn't mean there should be a separation. It just means you now need to find ways of you working together, so that whilst they are running an after school program, it complements what is happening in the school. And you see that then it benefits both the schools themselves and the students, because now the faculty in the government school is actually feeding into what the after school program is teaching, because they understand the gap that's in the school system. Same thing with the after school program. Now it's feeding into the school system, because then they understand the needs as it pertains to the community itself. So there's need for government to actually now engage, not just to wait to be engaged, but for them to actually engage, to call for people to come in and say, we're opening up the spaces, we are removing the bureaucracies that make it difficult for headmasters to say, yes, we want to work with you civic players, because that's a huge thing. Whenever you go into a government school, they tell you, no, I need you to have a letter from the Ministry of Education. When you go to the Ministry of Education, it takes years for you to get that simple letter. People want to come into that space, into the education space, and help it. I know, like, a lot of people within the diaspora that are working within the education space. They have access to computers that can be donated. We've had people that have come and said, no, we want to donate computers, but then it's difficult for you to bring the computers to Zimbabwe, because then Zimra also has issues with you with tax, and the tax then becomes so high, then you're like, but seriously, can I pay £3,000 for second-hand machines? So it then becomes very difficult. So just relaxing certain policies and that are in place that can be relaxed. Like, if you know that we're taking computers that will help a certain community, it's not for the benefit of an individual. This is a program that's not being charged. These are programs that are actually helping young people or like the community as a whole. Why not relax taxes? Why not then allow the school to say, if a program is there and it has nothing to do with politics, but rather has something to do with community development as a whole, why not accept it and not make it so hard for people to come into that space and support and complement whatever it is that you're doing? So going forward, I really hope that the government can actually begin to see that it is to their benefit and to the benefit of the whole nation for them to accept assistance. It doesn't mean you have failed. It means that you are actually doing something good, so that people actually want to come and work with you. It's difficult to be in a space where the government itself is saying we don't want assistance, but you can see there's need for it.